In terms of shipping an internal product, our biggest customers are going to be our internal stakeholders. And because they're our customers, we really need to understand their pain points when we do work with them. Generally speaking, many stakeholders for internal products are going to run into these kinds of challenges. One, they don't necessarily know how you're making a product decision. How did you decide whether to prioritize this upward versus deprioritizing it down? How did you decide whether to take on more scope versus de-scoping the ask? Right? Kind of all of these things are not necessarily clear or transparent to them. Another thing that's difficult for internal stakeholders is that they don't necessarily know how easy or how hard their particular ask is. They come to you with, I need you to build me this feature by this point in time, and because you are my colleague, right? Because you are building this internal product that only our company uses, it needs to get done. But what they might understand is that there are parts of their ask that can be made easier, and there are parts of their ask that are, just too hard, but there are different ways in which we can approach that problem. And so if they don't have the sense of kind of the level of difficulty for their ask, it can be very hard for them to understand why it is that we need to take the time that we do to assess the ask, to scope it appropriately, etc. Another thing that's challenging for internal stakeholders is that they don't necessarily have visibility into everyone else's asks to you. Typically, they will know what it is that they've asked of you. Right? So let's say that you're working with a sales team, a marketing team, and an operations team. Everyone within the sales organization is going to generally know kind of the different asks that they've placed on you, but they're not going to typically be aware of the different asks that the operations team have placed on you. And so you wind up having these different silos where different functional type stakeholders, they know about their own asks, but they don't know about other people's asks. And it's not reasonable for us to expect that they would know about those asks because kind of those asks come into our hands. But it does go to show that they aren't going to have that visibility, which makes it very hard for them to know, well, what else are you tackling? What else is on your plate? And finally, one of the things that internal stakeholders have challenges with is they know that they've made you some ask, but they don't really know where you've put it in the backlog. Right? If you tell them, oh, well, we're not doing this right now, but we will eventually do it. Well, when is eventually? Right? What is its priority? What is its rank order? When do you generally expect to deliver it? And that can be really, really hard for stakeholders. And so, of course, these are the pains that I have personally found to be true. One thing that you'll want to do with your own stakeholders is to actually speak to them and understand, whether these ring true. But generally speaking, in terms of my own interactions, as well as the folks that I've been coaching and working alongside, these are kind of the general things that can be really, really frustrating and difficult for stakeholders when they're working with an internal product team.